The simple fact of the matter here is that what we are seeing is approximately $120 million worth of what I will call fudgery. We are willing to stick it to the schools. When I say we, I mean those who are going to be voting for this bill, to the tune of some $25 million, where, based upon the data they presented to the Ed Department, it was determined that there should be a reduction in their aid. Okay, we'll reduce your aid. But we're going to turn a blind eye to those of you who are entitled, and in every year within the memory of anybody in this chamber would have received, for unanticipated increased expenses, their past due claims. So that's a swing of about $120 million. So basically, what you're doing is taking from Peter, not to pay Paul, but to pay Peter. You've taken $120 million you've ripped off the school districts for, and you're now telling them you're doing them a favor, and you're going to give it back to them. Or if you want to look at it another way, the MTA tax, the one that you're giving $60 million back to the MTA, you took $59 million from the counties in the MTA by not paying their past due claims. Talking about taking from Peter to pay Peter, that's what you did. So you can play with the numbers, you can say what you want, but the data doesn't lie. You have just stuck it to school districts in part, the sole purpose of which is to make them pay for your assumed largesse. I've served as education chair. I've been through many a budget. And I always thought it grossly unjust to turn your back on school districts that had incurred expenses and anticipated being reimbursed. There was not one scintilla of notice. There was no expectation. There's not anybody here who can possibly say that their school superintendent came to them and said, "Oh, I know, we're going to toss out our past due claims." I meet with my superintendents once or twice a year. Not a hint, not the slightest hint. They knew it was going to be a difficult year, and I told them it was going to be a difficult year. And I told them to hang on to their reserves as best they could, because next year was going to be worse. Because, as Senator Flanagan pointed out, this deficit for school districts, this cut, is really a $2.1 billion cut as proposed by the governor, offset by $700+ million in federal aid. So the reality is, ladies and gentlemen, that you should not be patting yourselves on the back without at least acknowledging that you're making school districts fund out of their own expenses some of the very things that you're claiming that you're magically producing for them. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Saland.